Overdrive Pedal. Appearing first in 1977 with the Boss OD1, this effect was designed as a compact alternative to cranked-up amplifiers to mimic the natural breakup of a tube circuit being pushed past its clean limit. It retains much of the original character of your guitar and responds dynamically to how hard you pick the strings. Historically, players had to turn their massive amplifiers up to neighborhood-shaking volumes to get this grit, but overdrive pedals allow you to achieve that warm, creamy sustain at any level. You will often see this effect represented by industry staples like the Ibanez Tube Screamer, the Boss BD2 Blues Driver, or the JHS Morning Glory. Distortion Pedal. Debuting in pedal form in 1973 with the MXR Distortion Plus, this effect aggressively saturates the signal to create a consistent, heavy crunch regardless of your playing volume for hard rock and metal. Because it doesn't rely on your touch to create grit, it provides a thick wall of sound that stays uniform across solos and rhythm parts alike. Popular examples include the ubiquitous Boss DS1, the Pro Co-Rat, and the high-gain Boss MT2 Metal Zone. Fuzz Pedal. Debuting in 1962 as the Maestro FZ1 Fuzz Tone by Gibson, this is the oldest form of transistor-based clipping, known for transforming a guitar signal into a thick, woolly, and almost synth-like square wave. It gained massive popularity in the 1960s when players wanted to emulate the sound of a broken speaker or a damaged mixing console channel. It is famously unpredictable and harmonically rich, often making the guitar feel like a completely different instrument. Historic and modern favorites include the Dunlop Fuzz Face, the Electro Harmonix Big Muff Pi, and the Zvex Fuzz Factory. Delay. Moving from magnetic tape loops to solid-state pedals in 1976 with the Boss DM1, this effect records your input and plays it back a moment later, creating an echo. Delay is a foundational tool for creating a sense of space and rhythm. You can control how many times the sound repeats and how much time passes between each repeat. Key examples are the Boss DD8, the MXR carbon copy, and the powerful Strymon timeline. Vibrato, becoming available as a dedicated circuit in the 1950s and famously appearing in the Magnatone amplifiers before the Boss VB2 arrived in 1982. This effect modulates pitch rather than volume. It creates a slight rhythmic wavering in the note, much like a singer's voice or a violinist's finger moving on a string. It adds a sense of instability and warmth to the tone, making it feel more organic and expressive, often used to give a vintage, lo-fi feel to a performance. The Boss VB2W, the TC Electronic Tailspin, and the Earthquaker device's Aqueduct are well known for this effect. Reverb. First offered as a standalone pedal-style unit in 1987 with the Boss RV2. This simulates the natural reflections of sound in a physical space. Before pedals existed, studios used giant metal plates or spring tanks to create this effect artificially. It adds a sense of three-dimensional depth and air to your guitar, preventing it from sounding dry and lifeless. Iconic pedals include the Boss RV6, the TC Electronic Hall of Fame, and the Strymon BigSky. Flanger. Released as a commercial pedal in 1975 by Eventide and shortly after by MXR, it was originally achieved in studios by physically pressing a finger against the rim of a tape reel to slow it down. This effect uses a very short time delay that is modulated to create a metallic, jet-plane, sweeping sound. Notable pedals in this category include the Boss BF3, the Electro Harmonix Electric Mistress, and the MXR Flanger. Chorus, first finding its way into a standalone pedal in 1976 with the Boss CE1 Chorus Ensemble. This modulation effect splits your signal in two, slightly detunes one of them, and delays it by a fraction of a second. The result is a lush, shimmering sound that mimics the effect of multiple instruments playing the same part at once. It became the definitive sound of the 1980s. Classic iterations include the Boss CE2W Chorus Ensemble, the Electro Harmonix Small Clone, and the Walrus Audio Julia. Looper. While tape looping dates back decades, the first dedicated digital looper pedal arrived in 1994 with the Boomerang, giving musicians the ability to record a phrase and repeat it back indefinitely. This allows you to layer new parts on top of yourself. It is an invaluable tool for solo performers who want to build a full band sound in real time, or for practicing improvising over a set of chords. The Boss RC series and the TC Electronic Ditto are the most popular choices for this functionality. Wah Pedal. Invented in 1966 by Bradley J. Plunkett at Warwick Electronics and marketed under the Vox brand, this is a filter pedal controlled by a foot treadle. By moving your foot back and forth, you mimic the sound of a human voice saying wah, which gives the guitar a vocal, expressive quality. It became a cultural icon in the late 1960s and remains the most famous, expressive pedal in history. The Dunlop Cry Baby and the Vox V847 are the two most legendary brands that defined this sound. Phaser. Entering the scene in 1971 with the Maestro PS1 designed by Tom Oberheim, this effect creates a series of peaks and valleys in the frequency spectrum and sweeps them across the signal. It produces a whooshing or swirling sound that feels like it is moving through space. Early phasers were intended to replicate the sound of a rotating Leslie speaker, and they remain a staple for adding movement and a psychedelic character to both chords and leads. The MXR Phase 90 is the most famous example, alongside the Electro Harmonix Small Stone and the Boss PH3. Tremolo. Introduced as a standalone pedal in 1941 by DeArmond with the Trem-Trol, this is one of the simplest and oldest effects, functioning by rapidly turning the volume of your signal up and down. It creates a rhythmic pulsing or stuttering sensation that was built into many vintage amplifiers from the 1950s. It provides a sense of atmosphere and vibe that works exceptionally well for surf rock, blues, and cinematic soundscapes. Popular modern versions include the Boss TR2, the Strymon Flint, and the JHS Tidewater. Pitch shifter or Octave. Introduced in 1967 with the Roger Mayer Octavia and evolving into the 1975 Eventide Harmonizer, these pedals analyze your note and output a version of it at a different interval. This allows a single guitar to sound like a bass, a 12-string guitar, or even a full organ. They are used both for subtle thickening of a tone and for creating wild, alien-sounding textures that are impossible to play naturally. The Digitech Whammy, the Boss OC5, and the Electro Harmonix POG are the primary examples of this technology. Noise gate. Introduced to guitarists in the late 1970s by brands like MXR to combat the hum of high-gain equipment, it is essential for high-gain players because it eliminates the annoying hiss and hum that occurs when you aren't playing. The Boss NS2 noise suppressor, the ISP Decimator, and the TC Electronic Sentry are the leading choices for cleaning up a signal. Envelope filter. Coming to market in 1972 with the Musitronics Mutron 3, this pedal provides a wah-like effect but is triggered by the intensity of your playing. When you strike a string harder, the filter opens up, creating a quack or wow sound that responds to your touch. It is a staple of funk music, providing a rhythmic, percussive character that follows the dynamics of the player perfectly. The Electro Harmonix Qtron and the MXR M120 Auto Q are classic choices for this effect. Equalizer. Transitioning from studio racks to the floor in 1971 with the MXR 6-band EQ. This tool allows you to sculpt the frequency spectrum by boosting or cutting specific bands like bass, mids, and treble. Many players use it as a secret weapon to reshape their entire rig's personality with a single click. Common sights on professional boards include the Boss GE7, the MXR 10-band EQ, and the programmable source audio EQ2. Compressor. Brought to the pedal market in 1972 by MXR with the Dyna Comp, these devices give players studio quality control over their signal's dynamic range. It clamps down on the loudest peaks while boosting the quietest notes, resulting in a more even and polished sound. In the studio, it is a fundamental tool for making a guitar sit perfectly in a mix, providing a clicky, clean tone, or helping a lead line sustain for much longer. Some of the most respected versions are the Keeley Compressor Plus, the MXR Dyna Comp, and the high-end Origin Effects Cali 76.